Hey yarn friends, so today I'm working on a Christmas tree skirt. So here's the idea. I'm making these circles. This is going to be the first ring around the base of my tree. So I just looked at my tree and kind of gauged, and I've figured out that 6 circles would be a good size to go around my tree. It'll kind of lap around like sort of like that. And so I'm not sewing these two together because I want it to fit into the tree. So now what I'm doing next is I made more circles to make another row. And then, if this wasn't big enough for your tree, you can make another row. I did 6, and then this one's going to have 12. And then you can make another row, doubling that out to 24. And just keep going on until you get the size that you want to make a Christmas tree skirt. So this is the colors that I'm using to decorate my tree this year. And I've just always loved these colors together. It's not, traditional Christmas, I guess, but I like the combo. So what I'm going to do now is make a blue square to go right here. And it will not connect to the red square, but it will connect to the white square. So I'm going to lay this over to the side. And we are going to use the 24 peg loom. And let me get my yarn. And we're only going to use one strand. And yes, it will look super holy and look like it's not going to work, but it will. So get your 24 peg loom and make a stitch. Let me move the camera just a little bit. Make a slip knot. Okay, one strand of worsted weight number 4 yarn will work just fine for this in any color combo you want to use. And this is great projects for scrap yarn. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm coming in between the first and the last peg. This is my first, this is my last. And I'm going to go around weaving in and out between every peg all the way around the loom. So I'm just going in and out, in and out. And now I'm back to the beginning. I'm going to go behind my peg 1 and come up. And I'm going to lay my strand down all the way around. And I'm holding it a little bit tight right now just so I don't drop it. And I'm just going around. I'm pushing those down some. And I'm just going around. And you can do these a few at a time. It might be easier. And now I'm coming to peg 1. And I'm just going to wrap it around peg 1 a bunch of times. Not that this is what you're supposed to do for the pattern, but this is just what I'm doing to kind of hold my yarn there. So this is called a drawstring cast on. On the bottom row, you go in and out around every peg. And then once you get back here, you go behind your peg 1 and then just lay your working yarn on top of every peg all the way around. And this isn't like held down super tight. You can see that I can pull it so it's not really, really tight. I'm just held it kind of tight as I was going around. So every other peg should have 2 strands of yarn. So what we're going to do is just start taking those bottom strands and pulling it over the top on every other peg. And this creates the drawstring cast on. Okay, this is real Simple and easy to do. And now we're going to make the yo-yo. That's what I'm calling these circles. Lots of people make yo-yos out of fabric. And that's what I'm calling these circles that we're going to make this Christmas tree skirt. So push your yarn down just a little, and it will feel a little bit tight on some pegs, and that's okay. It'll loosen up in just a moment. Now we're going to, we should have our anchor yarn there. Take your working yarn and unwrap it from that peg 1. So now we're going to take our working yarn and we're just going to start E-wrapping on peg 1, peg 2, and to E-wrap you go behind the peg, up, over, and around the peg. So we're just going to E-wrap all the way around. Okay, that was Phoebe. The cat got close to her. Dakota's cat. And then just bring your bottom loops up over the top and up over the top of the peg. Okay, that creates row 1. And whenever you're counting your rows, you're going to grab both of that strand to count as row 1. So now we are going to E-wrap 9 more rows. So we have a total of 10 rows. So just keep E-wrapping, wrapping every peg, and yarn over that bottom loop over the top of the peg, and then continue to wrap each peg around for the next row. And we're going to, this will be a total of 10 rows. So we've done 1, and this will be number 2. So go ahead and E-wrap your rows, and I will meet you back up when we have done 10 rows. Now we are going to need a tapestry needle, some kind of needle that's big enough for your yarn to fit in. And so what we're going to do is just draw string up the top, draw string up the bottom. We will stretch our stitches out some. Okay. So I'm going to pick which one is my longest string right here. And I'm going to thread it on my needle. Okay. And then it's on this side. So what I'm going to do is just pull that tight, and I'm just going to tie it off to knot it off and keep our little circle closed there. Push that in. I'll do that once, maybe twice. But and then push it down. Okay, then I'm just going to poke through the center, and I'm going to line my bottom center up and come up through that. And now I'm going to just tie this off about 3 times, good and tight. There we go. And I'll do it one more time just to be safe. Okay, and then we're going to stretch this out some. And if you see that you need to put a little stitch here to tie it off, you can do that. Sometimes mine needed it, sometimes it didn't. It looks fine this time. So, I'm just going to kind of stick my needle in and push it around. You notice that I'm not sewing the layers shut. I'm kind of leaving it fluffy since it is, you know, under a Christmas tree for the tree skirt. I'm just kind of leaving that fluffy-ish. And I'm just running my yarn through there just to kind of, I don't know what for, to be honest. Okay, so that's what I have for my yo-yo. And so what I'm going to do is bring back my longest piece that needs that sewn to it. And this is the bottom, because I have this coming out here. So I'm going to thread my yarn back on here. I'm going to take my yarn and just kind of run it up in the center somewhere. And keeping in mind that I do want this to curve, so I don't want to sew it way over here. I want to sew it kind of starting in the middle. Let me run that in there better. I'm going to start it kind of in the middle because I do want it to curve around. So this is the bottom. This is the bottom. I'm just going to put these two pieces together like that. The bottom's facing each other. And I'm just going to kind of whip stitch this. I'll tie off that first piece and whip stitch this about 5 times. This makes 3, 4, and on the 5th one I give it another little tie off, and then I'll just lay that out and see, yes, it curves around a little bit. So I'm going to take this yarn and just poke it through, turn it over on the back, and knot it off. And sometimes I do that about twice to just make sure it's not going to come undone. Alright, you can just snip that, or you can even weave that in if you want to. So now I have my outer circle and the inner circle. So what I need to do now is sew these together, leaving this open so that it can fit around the tree. So what I'm going to do is just get me some strands of my yarn. And just sew these together. So I need some red yarn right here. So I'm just going to cut a little strand of it off. it doesn't have to be too long. We're only going to do 4 to 5 stitches. So I'm just going to cut me some red right there and thread it on my needle. And I'm going to, from the bottom side of this, I'm going to go through, and before my yarn comes back through, I'm just going to tie a little knot right there and maybe double knot it so that I feel like it is secure. Okay, and I am going to turn this over like that so the top is facing the top. And I'm going to cut that little bit of tail off from my red. And I'm just going to stitch this about 3 times there. I tied off the first stitch, and then I think about 3 times will be enough. I'm going to tie off that one. And before I cut that, I'm going to see if that's working the way I'm thinking it's going to. Yep. Yep, so I'm going to flip this back over and just tie off this yarn right here on the back side of the red. And I'm going to do it one more time to give it a little better of a knot. And then I'm just going to clip it and flip this over and see what I want to do here. So now I'm going to sew the white one to this blue. I'm going to sew the white to the blue. So I'm kind of just skipping that one. And it's just going to kind of hang out there. So this should be it's an easy little project. It just takes time to make all your pieces. And they're real easy to make and to put together, actually. So I'm working on that one. I'm just going to flip that over. This time I got white yarn, so I'm going to tie it on the back of this white. And I can go ahead and snip that tail off so it doesn't get in my way. And I am going to just stitch this about 3 times to the blue. And you can see I'm just kind of not really putting a lot of thought into this. I mean, it's just a tree skirt. So there's my 3 times. So I'm going to come back to the white and tie it off. And tie it off again. And then if you want to take your tail and weave it in, you most certainly can do that. I probably won't do it every time. Alright, then I'm going to flip that back over and just see how the project's going. Okay, so I'm going to skip that red one, and I'm going to sew this red one to this white one. So I'm going to turn my project and flip this over. And I'm going to put about 3 stitches sewing that red and white together. And I'm just cutting me a strand of white. Oh yeah, I'm going to go through one layer of the white down here just to tie this on. If I was doing a project where this bottom part was going to be seen, I would do this neater. But since it is just a tree skirt, I'm just not putting you know, a whole lot of time, I guess. I don't know. Just kind of whipping it together quickly. I know the bottom is not going to be seen, so it doesn't matter if it's not just perfect since it, you know, it's not leaving my house. If it was leaving my house, I would be embarrassed to put out a project like that. All right. Okay, it come off my yarn, come off my needle. So now I'm just going to knot that off because I do want it to be secure. And I'm going to knot it twice. All right. And I'm not going to weave that in. Okay, and then flipping it back over to see how it's going. So I'm going to do okay, decided to sew this one to the red and to the white here. I think I'll sew the blue to the white, and then maybe this red to the white, and then the red to the blue. I think that will get me going good there. I could sew both of those, but I don't mind if it's gappy. I don't mind that one bit, so I think I'll sew these two together. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get some white. Just cutting me a little strand of white. Alright, and I'm going to rotate my project around. And let's see, I'm sewing this to the white. If I sewed it to the red, and then that to the blue, and that. Okay, I'm going to sew it to the red and blue. I've got a knot in my yarn here. How in the world did that happen? I don't know how this came about, but you know what? That's enough red right there to use, and then I'm just going to cut that knot off and not think twice about it. So I am taking that white off. I can reuse that again if I need come to some more white. Okay, so I'm sewing this blue to the red. So I'm flipping this over, and from the back side of the red, I'm going to tie in my red yarn. And I'm going to clip that off. Now, okay, I'm just going to put in a few stitches here to about 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, and I only went through 1 strand of yarn, so I'll probably do that again. Okay, so there's actually 4 stitches, but 3 would have worked. But I didn't grab enough yarn. Okay, and I'm going to knot this off twice right here. And then just clip my yarn and flip it all back over and see if it's looking right. Yep. I like how it's going. Now I'll do the white in that. So I already have some white cut. I'm going to rotate this around and then flip it. Okay. Then on the edge, do my 3 little stitches. And it doesn't matter where the stitches are going. I'm not trying to get them in any kind of certain place. All right. Let's see. Okay, so now I want to sew the red and this white together. Yep. Okay, and I have some strands over here. Let me see if any of them's long enough. Yep. Okay. Alright, I'm going to sew red to white. So I'm just flipping this over. Oh, I already had a red tail there I could have used. And now just do the 3 stitches again. See, this worked up pretty fast. It's not a hard project at all. And so this, I have a tail there, so I'm going to come back up towards the center. And stretch it back out, make sure it didn't draw up. And I'm just going to tie this up a few times and clip both of them off. Okay, so let's see. Now I still have a tail from this one. And I'm going to just make sure it is tied off good before I clip it. Alright, that makes a super easy tree skirt. Okay, I don't have anything to use right now except here's a tree just to show you that, you know, no matter the size of your tree, of course it wouldn't be this small, but a bigger tree, what you would do is just determine your first circle, how many yo-yos you needed to make your first circle, and you could just make some and kind of place it around to see how many you wanted to do, and whatever number you decide on, then just double the next row and then double the next row and just keep continuing out till you get the size that you want. Now, in here in the parlor, I have a small size tree, and so this works perfect for the size tree that I'm using. And like I said, I picked colors that I'm decorating my tree in for this year. I could totally see this being done in scrap yarn and just every color different, all different color circles, yo-yos, making up a tree skirt. And yes, I left the spaces in here because to me that just kind of adds to it. If you wanted to sew all that and not have any spaces, you definitely could. It's just your preference. I like the way this turned out, and so let's put it on the tree and see how it looks. Okay, so I have my tree skirt finished, and it is ready to go around my tree. So I'm going to place it over here and kind of just in the back, I'm just going to kind of overlap it just a little bit. But I think it looks good. I like it. I'm happy with how it turned out. And I think it will match my decorations for the tree very well. So I want to thank you for watching, and I appreciate you. And I will see you again very soon with another Loom knit yarn ornament.